Hey, good evening. I hope everyone is doing okay. I'd like to take the time and welcome you until another Morning Glory Apostolic Prophetic Center video. I'm your host, Hubbard, and today we're going to talk about familiar faith. Familiar faith. And what many of us need to understand, God is really operating in ways that many of us have never expected, we never seen, nor do we understand. But in order to really grasp and press in to what God is doing in this prophetic Hebrew year of 5784, we need to make sure that we don't tend to wrestle with familiar spirits or familiar action or familiar advice, that we need to go to a place that we know God is challenging us. And in challenging us, that shows that he cares for us. And in caring for us, he brings us closer to him. We're going to be in the book of Luke, chapter 5 today. And it says, "And it came to pass that as the people pressed upon him to hear the word of God, he stood by the lake of Gennesaret and saw two ships standing by the lake, but the fishermen were gone out of them and were washing their nets. And he entered into one of the ships, which was Simon's, and prayed him that he would thrust out a little from the land. And he sat down and taught the people out of the ship." See, what we got to understand in verse 1, people were coming to Christ from all different directions, with all different problems, with all different questions, with all different ailments. And he had to understand he can be familiar with their problems, but not familiar with the answer. So when we look at he stood by the lake of Gennesaret, that's defined in the Hebrew tongue as a garden of riches, which means when you're looking for a leader in this season, you got to look for more than a one-trick pony. You got to look for more than a person just tell you to pray about it. You got to look for more than a person that just know how to preach the gospel. You got to look for a person more than you acknowledge who they are, but they don't know who you are. See, many are know of God, but they're not known of God. So here we see Christ saw two ships sitting by the lake, but the fishermen was gone out of them and were washing their nets. See, a lot of times we miss who we are because we're somewhere else washing out our nets. Washing out our nets is meaning we still trying to figure ourselves out. We still in bondage. We still in bondage to money. We in bondage to poverty. We in bondage to childhood situations and circumstances. We in bondage to our God, to our job. We in bondage to our marriage. So here Jesus was looking for a ship, and the fishermen were gone out of them. So here we see is that the ship was the most valuable tool that a fisherman need, or so we think. The nets are as valuable as the ship, because without the foundation of the understanding of how and when to throw out the net, the ship is no good. That's what's wrong with a lot of you ministers. You know who you are, but you don't know how to clean your net. What does that mean? You need to clean yourself out. I just got through preaching a message earlier. God, show me me. And see, what's wrong with a lot of us, we don't really want God to show us who we are, because then we got to admit that we're a liar. Then we got to admit that we're a fornicator. Then we got to admit when we're adulteral. Then we got to admit we were lying on God. Then we got to admit we ain't got the relationship that we think with God. See, a lot of us don't want God to show us who we really are. So therefore we go back to familiar faith. We go back to what we know that makes us comfortable because we don't really want the things of God, because going to the thing, it stretches us. It makes us uncomfortable. Watch this. True story. 2 days ago, I was finna go somewhere. Told my wife, my darn suitcase still right here. I said, I'm finna go to such and such. She said, okay, be careful. So I left by 12 o'clock and I'm on the highway going, going where I was going, but it was kind of late. So I stopped around towards Savannah. I spent the night. I got up, and for some strange reason, familiar faith, some strange reason, I'm worrying about money. I'm just sitting there. I said, dog, I said, gas shoulder went up. I said, he ain't went down yet. You know what God told me right then and there? He said, if you don't believe that I will continue to provide for you, I don't want you to go nowhere. He said, turn around and go back home. So I turned around and went home. Familiar faith. In my instance, I always know God to do what he gonna do for me, but why am I questioning him when I really don't question him? I get home. This is what he told me. He said, in this season, procrastination is the same as rebellion. But you do know rebellion is as the sin of witchcraft. That 1 minute I took to think about what something caused my faith to not be in what God told me to do. That's how important 5784 is. But a lot of y'all won't get this because they're not talking about this. They're just trying to make sure you tired, make sure you come to church, make sure you say priest, pastor, and make sure that you there to lead the choir. This is the most pivotal year that would ever. This year here is the year that really determines the swing of who you are. That's why I said God said it's the season of the reprobate mind. That's why this is a reprobate mind series. That's why I call it familiar faith. Because some of you still operating off faith from when you first met God. When you first experienced God. It hadn't changed. So with me worrying about money, when I don't usually worry about money, it caused God to tell me to go back. He calling us to operate in that faith that we see in this word. When he told the disciples to do something, they did it. They didn't question it. They didn't look for confirmation. They didn't think about it. They didn't pray about it. God dog it, they did it. So here in verse 3, what it is, Luke 5, chapter 5, verse 3, and he entered into one of the ship, which was Simon's, and prayed him that he would thrust from the land. See, watch this. It was two ships sitting there. Both of the men were washing their nets. But he just happened to get in Simon's ship. That means to the people who listen to this message, you just happen to listen to this message. Why? Because God chose you. God chose you. Just like Christ chose Simon's ship. He knows who he's trying to work with in this season. But a lot of y'all, God can't work with you because the minute he's trying to tell you something, you go back to what you used to know. You go back to the familiar. You go back to what works because you don't want to be stretched. So you'll never feel what it's like to be broke, to be homeless, to be without. Because some kind of way, you're going to try to make somebody feel sorry for you to give you what you need. You got to go through it this season. See, watch this. So here, Christ used Simon's ship as his foundation of teaching. Some of y'all need to find another solid foundation so you can learn what's going on. I keep telling y'all this is a season of preparation. See, right now, Noah trying to get all the wood for the ark. Pretty soon, he going to start to nailing that wood. So he already saying, it's finna rain while he gathering the wood. He don't know what he talking about. TD Jakes don't say that. They don't say that. And so what's wrong with a lot of us? Because we listen to people who always speaking the blessings that we want, the miracles that we want, the happiness that we want, we shy away from the correction that's needed to gain those things. Even the world say if you see an alcoholic and he become rich, he gonna be a bigger alcoholic. If you see somebody that struggle with food, to give them money, guess what? They're gonna eat more food. So why would God give you a blessing without correcting you first? Verse 4. Now when he had left speaking, he said unto Simon, launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a draught. And Simon answering said unto him, Master, we have toiled all the night and have taken nothing. Nevertheless, at thy word, I will let down the net. And when they had done this, they enclosed a great multitude of fish in that net break. Watch this. Jesus used Simon Peter's boat as his foundation to guess what? To break whatever the people were going through. And it had to be by revelation because he was in the boat and he told them to push it left on the land. So God allowed Christ to preach a message that freed people just through wisdom of direction. But watch what Jesus did. Since he used the wisdom of direction to preach those that didn't know him, he turned around and distributed by action and did the same thing to Peter. He said, launch out into the deep and let down your nets for a draught. See, this is a season that you got to go deep down in yourself. And whatever you entangle in, I don't care if you've been sleeping with that man husband for 10 years, leave that woman husband alone. I don't care if you've been sleeping with that man's wife for 7 years, leave that man's wife alone. I don't care if y'all been screwing your childhood friend and you married for 20 years. Leave your childhood friend alone. I don't care if you sat there and the whole family ran a train on you. Let it go. I don't care if your mama kicked you out the house when you was 11 and you made it and you mad. Let it go. See this is season. If you want to go through if this the year to open doors, don't you know before God open the doors, he gonna do everything he can to give you wisdom to get delivered? Why do you think I ain't been talking about the doors too much? As much I've been talking about, okay, you got to find out who you are. You got to start over again. God ain't finna bless none of you messed up. I'm sorry. So when the religious prophet come out in 2024 with the Gregorian calendar, God say he gonna give you more in 2024. The riches that God is releasing is for kingdom people, for kingdom advancement. If you think you're going to buy a house, a car, fancy clothes, food, this ain't what these open doors for. So right there, just imagine this ain't for you. This for people who kingdom minded. This ain't somebody who want carnal gain so they can flex on everybody. So he gave Peter instructions. Launch out in the deep and let down your nets. See, a lot of y'all don't want to go deep down in your pockets. You don't want to go deep down in obedience. You don't want to go deep down in your savings. You don't want to go deep down in your finances. You don't want to go deep down in your bloodline. You don't want to go deep down in them generational curse. You know why? Because it'll prove to you you ain't who you think you are. See, it's easy for people to walk around and talk about how many degrees they got and they the CEO of this and you got all that. That's a cover up. Cover up. Because really you insecure. Really you lack self-confidence. Really you dealing with the spirit of rejected, the spirit of abandonment. So you can't go down in your deep. Because to go down in your deep, it might cause you to relive things that hurt and traumatize you, but you thought you over it. You ain't over it. Satan using it against you. How he using it against you? Because every time somebody say something to you, you get mad and want to fight. What instructions have God gave you that was designed to reach down deep down in you? But you didn't go all the way down in. You went just enough to say I went there, but you didn't go down in there. See, a lot of y'all can't go down in there because now you can see selfishness can't touch selfishness. So when a person with a selfish spirit and God try to go tell you to reach deep down there and give your all, it'll never happen because that what about me gonna always come in your what about this. See, and then verse 5, he said, Master, we toiled all night and ain't take nothing. But at that word, I will let down that net. See, a lot of y'all in darkness working. See, we tore it all night and taking nothing. See, the reason you're not being delivered, the reason you're not healed, the reason you're not getting blessing, the reason that you in the situation you in is because in darkness you working, which means you don't even know why you doing what you do. You know why? It's a good one. You too busy using your light to see what Brother Hubbard doing. To fault find me, to talk about my insecurity, to talk about my shortcomings, to talk about my downfall, to talk about look at him, he think he all that. See, while you working your light to find dirt on me, you actually in darkness because I know about me. I know about me. And because I know about me and you have no relationship with God, you have to use anything you hear on any of my podcasts or any of my video. You got to pick stuff out of that so you can turn around and try to use it against me. It ain't going to work because I don't operate in darkness. I operate in light. I just got on, and watch this. I just got off the phone with somebody all the way up in Seattle. They had a meeting last night. But guess what? I told them everything that went on. The afternoon before the meeting, I sat down and wrote out everything God told me to say. When I called, that what we was talking about. Insight. I'm listen here and call it what you want to. I'm never dark about anything that goes on around me. I refuse not to address it. I refuse not to speak to it because I'd rather let somebody think they're getting away of being slick than address it because my mind on the kingdom. I'm not on that. that subliminal messages type stuff. I'm not on that little passive aggressive type stuff. That ain't kingdom work. And see, that's why a lot of y'all can't see who you are, because you're really not doing kingdom work. You're doing work to satisfy you. So here, Simon said, okay, I needed instructions, and God gave me instructions. Christ, whatever y'all want to call him. He said, throw your net down now. See, it isn't until you come out of the darkness of who you are to find out what you're capable to be that then you'll be able to bring in some fruit. Verse 6, they got so much the net break, which means you'll get so much revelation if you stop trying to find out somebody else's weakness and focus on your own. Familiar faith. But because of church, you taught to notice everybody else but yourself. Why you haven't grown in Christ? But you say this your church. You say that's your pastor. Why you a 40-year-old church member? What's your gift? What's your calling? What's your anointing? What's your destiny? You hungry? You got gas? You got some money? Ask the people who connected to me, don't they get what they need when they need it when I hear it? Everybody don't get that, but most do. So you got to realize the reason a lot of you not growing is because you've been to church 30 years, but you haven't touched Christ yet. I don't care if you got a Beulah Baptist Church 40-year anniversary church t-shirt on. Have you touched Christ? Or is you still working in church and ain't drawing in nothing? See, for a lot of you operate in a familiar spirit. And when you operate in a familiar spirit, it calls you to have familiar faith. And when you have familiar faith, that means you're not growing. So in this season, you got to come out to familiar. So when God tells you to cast that net, you're going to see people following you. You're going to see people calling you. You're going to see people wanting to hear your ministry. It happened to me. But hey, that's your relationship with Christ. You do what you want. Now y'all be blessed.